All right, welcome back. Good morning, everyone. We're at the beginner-friendly track for Spring 1, Day 1. This is exciting. We've got our next presenter coming to you from Liberty Mutual. Please, everyone, welcome Wei Li.
Hello, can you guys hear me? All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Spring 1. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining the meeting. Hello? Can you guys hear me okay? All right, okay. So let me introduce myself. My name is Wei Li. I am with Liberty Mutual Insurance Company. I have been a happy and delighted Spring Framework and Spring Boot user for about 20 years since version 1. And other than that, I like to solve problems and I like to continuously learn new technologies. And on my spare time, I like to enjoy distance running. So in this talk, I am going to very quickly, go through some of the lessons learned while I am using Spring Framework over all these years. I will also try to share with you some of the tips and tricks for troubleshooting Spring Boot application issues and stay productivity while developing Spring Boot applications. All right. First of all, let's talk about Spring Boot in 30 seconds, right? Spring Boot is about dependency management. And Spring Boot also does auto and conditional configuration of all the required components for you. Spring Boot uses convention over configuration, and additionally, Spring Boot offers a rich set of non-functional features and tooling so that you don't need to do lots of plumbing work. Because of that, you can focus on implement your business functionalities, and you can be very, very productive in develop your applications, which will be high quality and cloud native applications. And you are going to have fun and happy, be very happy while working with Spring Framework. So in this talk, I am going to talk about a few fundamental pieces of Spring Boot framework. These few pieces sometimes are overlooked or missed during our development life. So if you are new to Spring Boot, or if you have some doubts, have some questions regarding some of the fundamental parts of Spring Boot framework, this is the right talk for you. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Application properties. All right. First of all, favor YAML file. As you can see, I have side-by-side comparison of the application configuration in both YAML and plain property format. As you can see, the YAML format is more condensed, right? And it also have syntax highlight, and it's much easier to your eyes. Not only that, the YAML format is supported by other language. So it provided support for more complicated hierarchical configuration. So we favor YAML file as the application configuration. And the second of all, regarding application properties, we prefer one configuration file per environment. With YAML file, you could choose to include the configuration for all environment in one configuration file, but that could cause issue. You could accidentally update another environment by mistake. So to make it clean, put the configuration for one environment into a separate file, and then all you need to do to activate that particular environment is you pass in the active Spring profile through an environment variable. So by doing that, the correct application configuration file will be picked up. And third of all, I like to default to local profile because we spend a big chunk of our time doing local development. So my default profile, Spring Boot profile, is local, and with my local configuration file, I can do lots of customization to make my local development work easy and productive, right? As you can see, I can tone debug, I can tweak the log level, I can tweak my actuator endpoints, do lots of things. So default to local profile. And all right, at this point, you have your Spring Boot application property file ready, right? Then next question is, how are you going to use those properties? Of course, Spring Boot support the annotation at value. However, we recommend to try to avoid using at value because it's hard to manage if you are if we are talking about many configurations, right? You need to do this, you need to use this annotation all over the place. And assuming you have many components across your application, you are going to have all this kind of annotation, littered through your application. It's hard to manage and find out where, what you want to configure. So try to avoid add value if possible. And what we recommend is use type safe properties, meaning we are going to switch this application YAML configuration into a Java bean, into a POJO, right? So the way Spring Boot make it very, very easy to do that. First of all, you put together a POJO which represent your hello. Hello. All right. Am I sharing screen right now? All right. Are you guys able to see my screen right now? All right. Okay, awesome. So, we can convert the application property file into a POJO, right? And the Spring Boot make it very, very easy to do that. Basically, all you got to do is to, annotate your POJO with the configuration properties. And then you use another annotation, enable configuration properties, so that the application property POJO is available to other components. That's pretty much all you need to do. And then the application properties now it's in a POJO format, and then you can inject the application property into your other components very, very easily using auto-wide capability of Spring Boot framework. As you can see from this example, right? I auto-wide the application property into my listener, and then I can use the POJO to retrieve whatever properties I need. So use type safe properties. And also you can actually validate your properties. And to do that, you just need to add a dependency, Spring Boot start validation, and then you annotate your application property POJO with validated, right? And also you annotate your fields with validated annotation. And then I say, okay, for the host name of my SMTP server, I don't want it to be empty. I want the length of my host name to be at least 8 characters, but less than 50 characters, right? Things like that. And I also want to validate my email address, right? So, you could use the validation API to make sure that your application properties is validated against your business rule. So with that, the takeaway regarding application properties is try to use Pojo for application property. That's actually Spring team is recommending. This is actually from Spring Boot documentation. So that's the first part, application properties. Hopefully I have enough time to cover the second part, which is dependency injection. So typically we have 3 mechanisms to do dependency injection. The first one is constructor injection, and the second one is field injection, and the third one is set injection. So let's dive into the details. First of all, field injection. As you can see, I have a private field for my components. I use the annotation auto-wide basically to do dependency injection. So under the hood, Spring Framework is going. So Spring Framework is going to use reflection. Use reflection to inject the dependency into my components. However, you should try to avoid field injection. Think from the unit test perspective. It's really, really hard to unit test field injection. And second point about dependency injection is regarding set injection. So wisely use set injection. As you can see, I have a set method which I annotated with auto-wide. So Spring Framework is going to inject the dependency, through this set method into my components. But we recommend you use it wisely. And the next one is constructor injection. So this is actually the preferred way of doing dependency injection. As you can see in this example, I have a constructor, and I annotated my constructor using the auto-wide annotation. And then Spring Framework is going to auto-wide, it's going to inject all the dependency for me. This is actually the preferred way of doing constructor injection. And we can actually take it a step further. Since the Spring Framework version 4.3, it supports a mechanism called implicit constructor injection. If your class only have one constructor. So in my particular example, right? In my class, I only have one constructor. Then I don't even need to annotate my constructor using the auto-wide annotation. Basically, I write my class just like a Pojo, and the Spring Framework is smart enough to do implicit constructor injection into my components. So that's really, really one step further. And let's take it as another step further. So we can actually, implement implicit constructor injection with Lombok. Lombok is a framework which write code for you. So basically, in this particular example, I do not need to write constructor myself. I used a Lombok annotation called required arguments constructor. So under the hood, during the compilation time, Lombok is going to generate this constructor for me. And then Spring Framework can do the dependency injection. So this is actually really, really handy way to do dependency injection. Okay, takeaway regarding dependency injection. So actually, this is recommended by Spring team from the Spring Framework Guide. They actually recommend the constructor injection. So by all means, start with constructor injection. In case you need to do field injection and or set injection, use them wisely. All right. So that's pretty much the second part about my talk, dependency injection. Let's see, do a time check. I have 5 minutes left. I may be able to cover another section. All right. Next, I am going to spend a few minutes to share with you some of the tips and the tricks to troubleshoot Spring Boot application during development work, right? First of all, turn on debug. So you can, what you need to do is you set the debug to be true. And then when the application starts up, it's going to generate, it's going to print out lots of detailed information related to your application. That way you can dive into details. You can see lots of insight of how the components are configured, are wired together. It's going to help you troubleshooting issues. And second of all, you can tweak log level in the application property file. And you can specify, you can customize a particular package to have a detailed log level in case you need to troubleshooting issues. So tweak your log level. And third of all, leverage actuate endpoints because they are really, really helpful. So the first endpoint is Spring Boot actuate bins, right? It provides a list of all the bins which has been created into your context. So that way you can see what has been available, what has been created. It's going to be very helpful to you when you're troubleshooting issues. And the second endpoint is conditions. Spring Boot configure components conditionally. So basically the conditional endpoints tells us, which condition has been met, which condition is not met, so that you know, okay, which components will be configured. And the second endpoint, next endpoint is configure groups. Basically, this is application properties, right? As you can see in my example, I have a SMTP server hosting, stuff like that. And the next one is env. Basically, this is your application environment variables. And next one is mapping. Mapping is nothing but Spring Framework MVC endpoint mapping. So in my example, as you can see, my endpoint API user ID is handled by the get user by ID method of this particular controller, right? So allow you very easily find out, how the mapping has been handled. And last but not least, the log actuate endpoints. Basically, it lists out all the log configuration for your Spring Boot application. Every package, what's the log level, right? And you can see the log level. You can actually, do a post to change the log level at runtime. So in case you need to troubleshooting some issues, you want to tweak the log level. So really, really helpful. All right. Let's see. All right, let me very quickly touch the next topic, be productive. So use Lombok. Lombok is a great framework, great tool to write code for you. So for example, in my Pojo, in my Java bin, I use the 4 Lombok annotation. Under the hood, Lombok generates hundreds of lines of code for me. So basically, for example, by the annotation of build, it implements the build pattern for me, right? And of course, get and set constructors, stuff like that. So definitely use Lombok if it fits your need. And second one is use DevTools. DevTools is out of box coming from Spring Boot, framework. So basically, it detects your changes during development and automatically restart your application. So it comes into really, really handy when you do your application development. And of course, use Spring Boot dashboard. Spring Boot dashboard is a little tool which basically provides all you need to do during your development life cycle. For example, you need to restart your application. You need to debug your application. You need to fire a web browser to see a certain endpoint, right? So definitely take advantage of Spring Boot dashboard. And if you are working with JPA, and you can use in-memory H2 database for development, and Spring Boot provide H2 console, which allow you to see your database very easily, so that make your prototyping, make your development work very, very productive. So with that, I have some other topics which I do not have time to cover, but they are part of my slides deck, and you guys can refer back later on. With that, I'm going to conclude my talk, and I would say my final recommendation would be, do not over-engineer. Use convention over configuration. Use the default settings and the configuration provided by Spring Boot framework, and try to up to date with your dependencies. And finally, learn from the source. Learn from the official examples. Read the source code. Read the blog post of the Spring team. So they are the authority of the Spring Boot framework. All right, I think that's all for me this time. I hope everybody enjoyed the conference. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Wei Li. We really appreciate that. Again, if you have any questions, Wei Li will be over on his Slack channel. So if you head over to the Spring One Slack channel and search for Wei Li and his talk, you can ask him your questions. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to bring on our next presenter, Martin Lippert. See you all in a few moments.